How's it going, everyone? In this video, I am going to be going over the strategies with Facebook ads to book upwards of 200 and even 300 sales calls a day. So you can see here in this previous business that I was running, we booked close to 145,000 sales calls. And this was over about a year and a half, so like 500, 600 days. If you do the math on that, it works out to around 250 calls a day, which that was kind of what we needed because at the time we had about 30 sales reps, which was crazy. And I don't recommend growing a sales team that size, but every single sales rep was getting about 8 to 10 booked calls a day. And this obviously did work out well. The business grew and was very profitable. We had almost 1 million total leads. And 100% of this was fueled with paid advertising. So if you look me up on Instagram, even here on YouTube, I've never really had much of a personal brand. So we were booking 200 to 300 sales calls a day, pretty much completely with meta advertising. Maybe like 30% of it was with YouTube and Google. But for the past 2 years, since mid 2023, meta ads have really been my bread and butter. And for pretty much all of these calls, all of these leads, I was the copywriter, I was the media buyer, I was the one actually in the ad account driving the ship, so to speak. And I wanted to share, obviously, in this video what has worked really well and what has not. Because people are always surprised when I tell them that I'm still the marketer that's like writing all the copy, that's literally like in the ad account. And I've never had a big marketing team. My marketing team has almost always been less than 5 people, even when the business was at its peak. So in this video, I'm not going to be at all going into the Facebook ads manager. I'm not going to tell you like what settings to click. Because if I'm being perfectly honest, most of that stuff actually does not matter. If you talk to any good media buyer, anyone who's spent upwards of $5,000 a day, $10,000 a day, they're all going to tell you the same thing. They're all going to tell you the creative and the offer is the 80-20. The creative that you're literally putting in front of people, like the ad, the image, the video, whatever. And then obviously what is the offer? What is the thing that you're selling? Those are going to play so much bigger of a role than what little checkboxes and settings that you click inside of the Meta Ads Manager. Case in point, I myself am not at all up to date on all of these, algorithm updates and all these latest settings. And 100% those things are important. But if you have a really crappy creative and a really crappy offer, being perfectly optimized on all of those things is not going to fix it. By comparison, if you have a really amazing creative, really amazing offer, you could probably just leave everything on the defaults, just kind of screw everything up when it comes to the technical setup. And you're probably still going to do very well. You're probably going to have ads that book you tons of calls, get you tons of leads, make you tons of money. So that's really what I want to focus on in this video because I think there is a massive shortage of that. And obviously there's not that many people that can truthfully say they've spent, at our peak, we were spending upwards of $40,000 a day, pretty much exclusively on meta advertising, obviously booking hundreds and hundreds of calls. So I've already kind of touched on the 2 biggest, most important points. The first of which I mentioned is your creatives. And when it comes to your creatives, the biggest needle mover is going to be the angle. What is the idea or what is the premise that is being presented in that creative when someone first glances at your advertisement? And we're going to be talking about that a little bit more. And then the second thing to that is your offer. What is the actual thing that is being sold? And I could make entire 3 to 5 hour long videos just going over what makes a great angle and what makes a really great offer, but I want to try and abbreviate it. The number one thing I can tell you, because I've obviously done this in my own business, but now I work with clients, I consult with them, I help them with their paid advertising, their traffic. Number one thing that is always going to make your business easier to advertise, that is going to get you more profitable results when it comes to improving your angles and your offer, is ultimately being unique. And this does not mean you need to have the world's most revolutionary, innovative product, because if I'm being honest, most of you probably watching this do not. There's probably competitors who can confidently say that they offer a very similar thing to you. So the thing that is important, obviously, and it's the reason why a lot of the times it's not the best product that wins, but it's the best marketing that wins, The best marketing is inherently marketing that is unique. It is not necessarily marketing that is better. And I see a lot of people try to do this. A lot of people, when they're advertising and they start seeing competitors coming into their market, they start seeing people start to copy them, they start to try and one-up them. So like, for example, I had a client who's a real estate investing coach. He helps people, acquire short-term rental properties. He had a bunch of competitors that were coming in that were starting to make bigger and bigger claims in their advertising. Instead of just saying, oh, I'm going to help you, quit your job and retire off of your short-term rentals, they were saying that they were going to become millionaires and they were going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in passive income as a result of buying short-term rental properties. And he was getting frustrated because his results were declining. And he was thinking, rightfully so, he's like, well, how can I compete? If they're making all these big, lofty claims, how could I possibly stand out if we are essentially teaching and selling the same offer? He's teaching people how to invest into short-term rental properties. And the short answer is you can't compete in that regard. You cannot compete on just making bigger and bigger claims. However, what you can compete on, and that's the whole thing that I've built my businesses on, because the offer and business that was being sold that generated those kinds of results was definitely not unique. It was not the first of its kind product. In fact, there had been probably countless other companies that had sold products, services, and offers that were similar to the ones that we were offering. The number one thing that made a difference was that our angles and our offer was unique. So what do I mean by this? An angle, like I mentioned before, is the idea or the premise that is being presented in the first 5 to 10 seconds. So if I was my client, the real estate investing coach, if I was to start an ad, a video ad, let's say, by saying, this rental property right behind me actually made me my first $10,000 and allowed me to build my rental property portfolio. You, just watching this video, have probably heard a million ads that sound exactly like that. And maybe you yourself have not tried investing into short-term rentals. Maybe you've never done real estate. But as soon as you hear that ad, you automatically put it into the box of all of these other make money online gurus and start a business gurus. And immediately you're not actually paying attention to this ad. You're basically just waiting to maybe hear if something about this ad is going to be new, if it's going to be unique, if it's going to be different. And if not, that example I just gave you is definitely not, you're probably just going to scroll away and you just wasted some of your advertising dollars on someone who was not interested, who you weren't able to effectively grab their attention. So when it comes to taking an offer that is not inherently new, like short-term real estate investing, there's nothing new about that. People have been doing that for decades. How do you actually make it sound new and unique and exciting? Because that is the thing that ultimately is going to separate you from all of your competitors. One of the easiest ways that you can do this, that I'm so surprised that more people don't do, is to make it timely. And what I mean by this is you should be talking about what people are currently hearing through media narratives. What are the things that people are talking about or hearing about on traditional news, like news networks like Fox, CNBC, CBS, etc.? And what are the sorts of things, what are the sorts of narratives that are becoming more widely talked about on social media? This, you could call it like social listening. I like to call it like narrative listening, because the hardest thing you could ever do is to try and argue against what someone is hearing in the general world around them. For example, for the past 5 years, basically, since like 2020, the media narrative has pretty much always been that we're about to go into a recession, like people are getting laid off, like either because it was because of COVID, either it was because of Trump or Joe Biden, or it was because of AI. That has been a very consistent media narrative in the economy. And whether you think that's true or not, ultimately does not matter. It matters what your leads, your potential clients are hearing. If I was advertising to people where that's the narrative that they're hearing, and I was going to start my ad and say, the economy has never been better, now is the best time ever to invest into short-term real estate properties, even if that maybe is true, even if maybe there is some factual argument around how the economy is indeed better than ever, at least when it comes to real estate, it does not matter what the truth actually is. What matters is what is the narrative that people are currently hearing about, which If it comes to investing, if it comes to business, if it comes, around income or career growth or anything like that, pretty much for the past 5 years, people have been hearing consistent doom and gloom. And the easiest way you can do this is to go on actual news websites, go on Fox, go on CNBC, go on reddit.com/r/news, look at the things that the headlines are saying, because that's the way that most people understand what is happening in the world. That's how most people form their opinions. They don't actually read the article. They don't read all of the nuance. They just see a headline, and that then gets put into their mind of all of the information that is happening in the world. A lot of people use Instagram, social media, X is very, very popular. But if you want to ultimately make an offer unique, you need to be the one that is speaking to the things that people are currently hearing about. Another really good example, one of my clients that I help with her advertising is a woman's body image coach. She helps women who have had issues losing weight. They've tried all the fad diets and nothing has worked. Ultimately, let's think about what is the narrative that people who are trying to lose weight have been hearing. Well, for the past 1 to 2 years, Ozempic has been absolutely exploding with growth. At least here in California, where I live, in Texas, where I will visit quite a few times, you'll drive down the highway and you'll literally see billboards every 100 yards for Ozempic and all of these different semaglutide and all of these other weight loss supplements. So it would be ignorant of me to ever try and advertise anything related to weight loss. My client, she obviously does coaching for women who have body image issues. There's many, many people who sell supplements or weight loss and training programs. Any of those people are never going to be able to advertise effectively without addressing drugs, basically, without addressing semaglutide, Ozempic, or any of these other drugs that are being bombarded in people's narratives. So when it comes to being unique in your angle, you need to, number one, you need to address and speak to what they are hearing, but then adding a little twist at the end. That is obviously important, because in the example of helping someone invest, helping someone grow a business or whatever, if I just come out and say, oh my God, the economy is so terrible and that's why you need to buy my program, that's why you need to click on this ad, that also is not unique. But if I was to come out and say, people are saying we're about to enter one of the world's worst economic periods since the Great Depression. However, this is also creating one of the biggest wealth transfers that the world has ever seen. That's the little twist. The little twist at the end is, we all know this is happening. This is something that all the news outlets, all the social media accounts are talking about. You've seen this. However, there's this little other portion that most people are also not talking about. You could do the same thing with weight loss. You could say, everyone is talking about Ozempic. Everyone's talking about using these weight loss drugs like semaglutide, which may or may not be effective. However, what a lot of people don't know is that there is a way that you can actually get all of the benefits of these so-called miracle weight loss drugs without the side effects. In either one of those cases, if I'm in the market, if I'm someone who's looking to invest, looking to grow a business, or if I'm looking to lose weight, that is an ad that I am much more likely to continue watching and actually potentially click on than one that is just either feeding into the news narrative that I'm hearing, that's just telling me the same thing that I've had repeated at me a million times over, or, like I mentioned before, just completely ignoring the media narrative and just completely saying something totally the opposite. Neither one of those is going to be effective. You need to play along with the things that people are hearing. You need to obviously make sure that what you are saying in the ad is logically sound, but you also need to have a twist. You need to show that the news media, the social media accounts, all the gurus that people are seeing on social media, they're 80% right, but the 20% that they're not right about actually is the thing that's going to help you achieve your goals, whether that's grow your business, start a real estate portfolio, lose weight, whatever that might happen to be. That is by far the easiest thing. Literally, you could take 10 minutes, you could pause this video, stop watching it, go on a news website like Fox, CNBC, go on Reddit, read some of the things that people are talking about in the general economic state of the world, whatever industry that you might happen to be in. What are the things that people are currently hearing about when it comes to your industry? Take 80% of that and then add the 20% twist. What is the thing that people are missing when it comes to this general narrative? That is probably the majority of the ads, the majority of the hooks that I've ever created. Some of the most profitable angles, most profitable ads inside of my account are literally just feeding into the things that people are hearing through media narratives, but then just adding a 20% twist to make the angle unique and to force curiosity that someone has to click on the ad to ultimately get the answer, to learn more about whatever it is that I'm offering. So timeliness is the first easiest way that I would recommend anyone making a new, unique angle when you're trying to advertise. The second thing is what I would call a desire flip. I always wonder if it's helpful for me to actually write any of this, because can anyone really read this? A desire flip is basically where, like I was talking about before, in any market, the more competitive it gets, naturally people start to compete on one element of desire. So very common if you're in the business of helping people make money, if you help people start a business, grow a business, invest their money, whatever, the desire that then gets competed on is how much money you're helping someone make. So let's say you help people grow a business and there's like 10 other business coaches, 10 other marketing agencies that all claim to do the same thing. You might come out with an ad today that says, I'm going to help you increase your business by 10%. If that ad starts doing well, it is very common that within a month, you're going to have other people who are ripping your ad off or now saying, I'm going to help you grow your business by 20%. I'm going to help you grow your business by 50%. I'm going to double your business in 30 days, or you don't pay us a single dime and I'll pay you $5,000. That is a very, very common way that markets and advertising becomes competitive. It becomes costly. It just becomes ineffective. So what you need to do, in addition to, what I was kind of talking about with media narratives, it's important to have a pulse of what people in your industry are talking about, hearing about, what is the general narrative that a lead or a potential client in your market is hearing about. You also need to know generally what are your competitors saying, because the most important thing, as I've said many times, you need to be unique. If a competitor is saying, I'm going to help you grow your business by 50%, you are not going to do substantially better with your advertising by just saying, we're going to help you grow your business by 70, 80%. You're both just saying the same things. And if anything, you're kind of just confusing your market. You're just confusing them and making them more distrustful of all of the claims that are generally being made. So what we can do instead is what I like to call a desire flip, where instead of just focusing on this desire of increase the percentage or the amount of money that someone is making in their business, we could instead change the timeline. Where instead of saying, I'm going to increase your business by 50% in 3 months, what if I said, I'm going to help add an additional 10% to your business in 30 days? It's a smaller claim. However, the main thing that's changing, the main thing that we're now competing on is a new desire. In this case, it's the desire of things happening faster rather than the overall business growing bigger. Amazon pretty much has built their entire business model on this alone. The biggest thing that Amazon innovated when it comes to e-commerce and logistics that now every other retailer has to copy was their 2-day shipping. There's times now where I order from Amazon, it will literally get to me in like 3 hours. I don't even know how that's possible, but now I will not really consider buying something online from anywhere unless it's going to get to me within 2 days, because Amazon set that standard. And you could absolutely make the argument that, Amazon products, Amazon whatever is not the highest quality, but clearly people care more about speed and timelines in the realm of buying, random knickknacks on the internet. They care more about that than necessarily getting the absolute highest quality. And that is obviously why Amazon is one of the most valuable companies in the world today. So Alex Hormozi talks about this a lot in his book, $100 Million Offers. He calls it the offer value equation, where you want to have something that's very desirable. It's this big dream outcome. You're helping people get it in the least amount of time and the least amount of effort. Every single one of those elements of that offer desire equation, I think it's called, or offer value equation, that's what it's called, can be used as a desire flip. So instead of using an angle of timeline, you could also use one of effort, where let's say you're a weight loss coach. Let's say you're a personal trainer who helps your clients lose weight. This is just purely hypothetical, but if I was trying to lose weight and I saw an ad that said, I'm literally going to buy all your groceries, I'm going to come to your house and cook all the food, I'm going to be following you around all day to make sure you don't need any snacks, and I'm going to be with you every minute at the gym to make sure you're working out in an optimal way. That offer, $10,000 a month. Oh my God, that is so expensive. Who would ever buy that? The key is that we have removed all of the effort from the person. And 100%, is that going to be something that everyone takes them up on? No. But from what I know about the fitness, wellness, weight loss market, that is an angle, that is a desire that is not advertised as heavily. Most of the ads that you see in weight loss or health or whatever is just like, oh, this person lost 40 pounds in 3 months, or they lost 20 pounds in 6 weeks thanks to my boot camp. Most of that stuff people just don't pay attention to. Just like how the example I gave before, people hear about, a business coach or a make money online guru, and they just immediately tune it out. They put it into a box in their mind where they're like, I've seen this before, I'm not going to pay attention to it. Same thing happens in every single market. So while that angle might sound ridiculous, where I've removed all of the effort, I'm going to do all the shopping, I'm pretty much going to spoon feed my personal training client, that is at least going to get attention. That is going to get clicks. That is going to get people to watch. And maybe not everyone who watches that ad is going to take me up on that, but it's going to attract people who like the idea of, wow, I've always had such a hard time staying disciplined, shopping for groceries, working out. Like maybe I don't pay him $10,000 a month, but maybe he has a smaller version of this program that I could actually afford. All of these desires that you can play on, that you can adjust what you're calling out to, are so much more effective than just trying to compete on a bigger and bigger claim. So timeline and effort, how long it takes to achieve a result, how much effort or how much outside of someone's comfort zone someone has to step to achieve that result. These are all possibilities. The size of the goal. So this would be, instead of saying, I'm going to make you a millionaire tomorrow, you could say, I'm going to help you make your first $50, $100 online. That's very common. Actually, for the past few years, if you have been in this space of business growth, side hustles, etc., a lot of the angles that have worked really well, a lot of the advertisers that are crushing it, are not promising people that they're going to be millionaires tomorrow or that they're going to help people quit their job. They're usually very conservative goals. Actually, one of the biggest ones that I personally know was an angle that had well into the seven figures, millions and millions of dollars spent behind it, was literally an ad that was just teaching people how to make an extra $1,000. That's it. And you might think like, well, why would anyone click on that? And it's because everyone had been hearing for many, many years all of these claims and all of these ads saying, I'm going to make you a millionaire tomorrow. I'm going to make you $10,000 a month. You're going to quit your job in 2 weeks and you can spend all your time with your wife and kids. And people heard those things so much, they just stopped believing them. So that's really the whole point of this video, is really getting you to think about unique angles and think about how you can, without changing anything about your business. I'm not telling you you actually have to change anything about what you are selling. We are simply changing the perception of how you are displaying it to people within the first 5 to 10 seconds of them hearing about you. Because again, if you're like me, if you don't have the benefit of a warm audience, if you don't have the benefit of a personal brand, you need to be doing anything you possibly can to stand out as soon as people see you for the very first time in an advertisement, in a post, anything at all like that. So I don't want this video to go on too long, because I do believe that it's something that comes with practice. You can absolutely use AI to play around with this. Like, go ask ChatGPT, hey, what are things people are hearing about in my market? AI is actually pretty good at fetching news sources and social media. You can ask it to do a desire flip for you. You can say, hey, instead of starting with a claim about how much weight you can lose, how much money you can make, what are some other dimensions that we could be calling out to? Very, very easy to get the creative juices flowing. Like any creative process, the more you do this, the easier it's going to get, the better you're going to get at it. And that really is my biggest advantage. Is I've written pretty much every ad angle inside of every one of my businesses for the past 6 years. Probably written into the thousands of ads myself. So now I'm very strong at it. It's a muscle, it's a reflex that you can build over time. And again, if you don't have the benefit of a warm audience, if you are marketing through advertising or you're marketing to cold audiences, then this is absolutely a skill that you need to have in your repertoire as a CEO, as a business owner, and as a marketer. So if this was helpful, leave a like, subscribe for more videos like this. Feel free to leave a comment down below with any questions, any future videos you want to see. I'll read every single one.